How you guys doing today? It is me again, and they do call me Kraken. I am back here at work. This is a second day of snow and ice. It's actually starting to warm up, so things are starting to thaw out a little bit. And unfortunately, I work for an electrical supply company. I'm in sales with an electrical supply company, and so when we have these snowstorms, which thankfully do not happen very often in the state of Texas, I still have to come to work because, you know, when you have bad weather, it causes bad problems. And when there's an electrical problem that occurs, then they have got to get the replacement parts. So somebody has to be here. And so anyway, I am here. Give me 1 second. Let me move this around a little bit. So anyway, I'm here. And I'm not really able to work at home. I do have a small shop at home. It's not a huge shop. You guys know that I do most of my work outside, and you know, and obviously I'm not doing any work outside right now. What work that I have left to do inside, and I do have some work to do inside, can only be done when it's warm enough to do it, because my shop only has a little space heater in it, and that little space heater just does not keep up. So if it's warm enough where it can be comfortable enough for me to work inside, then I will work inside. If it is not, then I don't. And last night it was just way too cold for me to go out there, so I didn't go out there. So while I'm unable to work in the shop, and while I'm unable to really share some of the things that I'm doing in there, I just wanted to come in here and do a couple of videos, right? A couple short videos. We did one yesterday in which we talked about some of the claims that, you know, people are making about the sales revenue that they're making off of items that they make out of cheap material. And I wanted to touch on that again, but I want to talk about something else kind of related to that. First is that I do want to reiterate and say that I've never said, and I'm not trying to say, and if it was taken this way, then it was taken wrong. I'm not trying to say that they don't sell these products. I'm not trying to say that. And I'm not even trying to say they don't sell them for what they claim to be selling them for. Now, some of the claims seem a little far out there. You know, one guy that I watched said that he made $400,000 in 1 month making stuff out of a 2x4. And I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Every market's different. Maybe he did. But my big thing about that was that as a beginner woodworker, as a person who may not have an established clientele, or as a person who doesn't really have a lot of design ideas, when you go out there and you seek out YouTube and you find these guys who say, you know, you make this and it's guaranteed money, the first thing I want to say is that there's absolutely nothing guaranteed. So that's where I want to come in at, right? And that is selling your stuff, actually turning a profit on your stuff, okay? And this is one of the biggest issues that I see in a lot of the groups that I'm in. I do a lot of cutting boards, a lot of charcuterie boards, a lot of serving trays, that kind of stuff. I do epoxy river tables. I do shelves. I do end tables. I do coasters. I do bottle opener coasters. I do birdhouses. I do all kinds of things. Right, and I switch it up a lot. I'll do charcuterie boards, and I'll do cutting boards until the charcuterie boards and cutting boards start stacking up and they don't sell, and then I'll move to something else, and then I'll do those until they quit selling, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And then when we do a craft show, I'll take everything that hasn't sold, we'll get it up there, and we usually do pretty good. I make most of the sales that I've made have been at a couple of the craft shows that I've done, and so I've tried the Facebook Marketplace. I've tried selling on there. I've tried selling on Etsy. I've tried selling with my own website. You know, I've sold many different ways. And one of the things that I've found, the only consistent thing that I've found that sells regularly is simply word of mouth. Word of mouth and return customers. Customers are happy with your product. They show your product off. They talk to somebody about your product. That person likes your product. They contact you and they say, hey, can I get this made? But you have to get your stuff out there in order for anybody to ever see it and sell it. So I use Facebook. I have a business page, Liberty Woodworks, on Facebook, and Liberty Woodworks is where I sell the majority of my stuff. I also have my own website. I have my own website through Squarespace, where I can sell anything that I want to sell through website. I also have an Etsy page. I have everything up on Etsy, and I can sell through Etsy. I also throw stuff up on Facebook Marketplace, and I can sell on Facebook Marketplace, because any avenue where I can make a sale, I'm going to take advantage of. If I don't take advantage of that, I might post 100 things on Facebook Marketplace and not a single one of them ever sell. All right? But if I never post anything on Facebook Marketplace, then guaranteed nothing is ever going to sell, because there's nothing there to buy. You get my drift? I can put it up on Facebook Marketplace for sale, and it may just sit there in 20 different buy, sell, trade groups, and nobody ever see it, nobody ever do anything with it. And if that's the case, that's the case. We'll take them down periodically. We'll put them back up. We'll try it again and see if it works. And if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. I've sold quite a few things on Facebook Marketplace, but Facebook Marketplace is not my preferred place to sell. So here's the thing. You go out to Home Depot, you go out to Lowe's, you go to Menards, or whatever the big box store in your area happens to be, and you buy you a 2x6 or a 2x4 or a 2x8, 2x10, 2x whatever. You buy dimensional lumber, and it's cheap wood. It's not expensive. It's one of the reasons why you're buying it, right? It's not expensive. And you're making something simple, something easy that you can turn in a day, that you can turn in an afternoon, or you can turn in a couple of hours, or you can batch out and make a bunch out of this cheap dimensional lumber that you bought. And then you're going to take a blowtorch, because this is the going fad right now. You're going to take a blowtorch and you're going to burn it, and then you're going to wipe the burn off a little bit, and then you're going to spray a finish on it, and you're going to slap it up for sale. Or you're going to sand it down really good, and you're going to put a stain on it, and you're going to slap it up for sale. Or you're going to sand it down kind of rough, and you're going to throw a paint job on it, and you're going to put it up for sale. What do you charge for it, right? I mean, you got all these claims out there that I can go and I can make a candle holder, tea light candle holder, and I can sell it for $85 by just going out and getting a 2x4 or a 4x4 and cutting it down, and and throwing a couple candles in it, right? The whole process is a 30-minute process. I'm gonna make $65, $85, $105 on it. So those claims are there. I've made a lot of tea light candle holders. I've made a lot of them, and I've put a lot of them up for sale. I've sold, in probably the 20, 30 of them, different types that I've made, I've sold two of them. That's it. 2 of them. That's it. Nobody's buying them. Not from me anyway. And this is part of what I want to talk about. And that is that, let's use a real estate term, right? Comp. Comp is a real estate term. It means that you're comparing the price of the home that you're purchasing or trying to sell to other prices of similar homes in your area. So let's say that I have a 1,600 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house sitting on half an acre of land, and I want to sell that house. All right? So what I would do is I would get comps from the area. I would go out and I would find out what other properties have sold in the same general area that I live in, and how much they sold for. And that is a key idea on about where I can expect to be able to price my house. So let's say, using this formula, that here in Texas, I've got a 1,600 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house sitting on half an acre of property, and the comps in the area are $275,000. Okay, that means that I can comfortably say that if my house is better than those, that I may be able to get $300,000 for it. If my house is not as good as those, then I might be able to get $225,000, $250,000. But the $275,000 gives me a ballpark figure, right? And so that's what some of these guys on YouTube are doing, is they're going to sites like Etsy, and they're looking all over Etsy for similar products. And they're looking on Etsy to see how many of these, or what the average price of these products for. They're getting comps for these products on Etsy. And they're saying, okay, well, this guy's making $65 off of this, and this guy's making $85 off of this, and this guy's making $50 off of this, so I should be able to price my stuff right up in there, right? $40, $50. But the whole deal with comps has to do with something that is comparable, however you want to say it, to what it is that you are trying to sell. So in the instance of the house, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot house on half acre of property that I'm trying to sell, and the comps in the area are about $275,000. Well, will my house sell for $275,000? You would hope it would, but maybe it won't, because maybe one of those houses that sold for $275,000 is a brick home, and mine's not a brick home. Mine has vinyl siding on the side of it that's 20 years old, and so it doesn't have the same curb appeal as the other house. Maybe the other house has had a lot of landscaping done in the front, and the house looks really nice from the outside. As you drive up on it, the hedges are all trimmed, and everything is nice and green and clean. And maybe that house has a driveway that, you know, is a good solid concrete driveway with a good slope, and maybe that house has a garage, but my house doesn't. My house doesn't have a garage. My house doesn't have a concrete driveway. My house doesn't have a brick exterior, right? So can I expect to get $275,000 for my house if that house sold for $275,000? And the answer to that is probably not. More than likely not. And so the same theory applies to getting comps for the products that you're selling. All right, you're making something out of pine or fir, you know, construction grade lumber, and maybe they're making their stuff out of hardwood. Maybe they're making it out of ash, or maybe they're making it out of maple, or maybe they're making it out of walnut, or maybe they're making it out of a hickory or something like that. So if you're making something out of pine and they're making something out of walnut, can you expect to get the same price for it? And the answer to that is probably not. Probably not. All right? You're using a stain or a dye or a paint in a spray lacquer finish in order to sell your product, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're using something a little bit more expensive. Maybe they're using, tongue oil and a wipe-on poly finish, that they've put a little bit more of attention into, or maybe they're using an epoxy finish, right? So when you're doing the comps, not only do you have to look at the type of stuff that you're making and compare it to the type of stuff that is out there selling or out there listed for sale, but you're also trying to match the type of material that you're using to the type of material that they're using. So if somebody was to build a custom shelf, and there's one I plan on building here very soon. If somebody was to build a custom shelf and they use 2x4 lumber to build that shelf out of, and I use black walnut, and they use a sheet of plywood for the shelf that has maybe edge banding on it, and I use some milled down beech for my shelf. Can I expect to make more money than they make doing this exact same shelf? What if their shelf is riddled with nail holes and they've put it together with with screws that, you know, you can clearly see. But I don't have any nail holes in my product, and my product is put together with maybe a half lap joint and some dowels, or maybe even put together with maybe a dovetail joint. You know, could I expect to make a little bit more money than what they're making on their product? So these are things that you want to take into consideration when you're trying to sell your product, because as a consumer myself, I'm looking for the best deal on the best product, right? I'm not a rich person. I don't have disposable income. And so even though my clientele makes more money than what I make, I'm not the type of person that's going to go out and spend a lot of money unless I see the quality in it. So I will go there and I'll look an item over, and if it doesn't have the quality that I'm looking for, then I'm not going to spend the money on it. And that's just the way it is. And I think a lot of people that are consumers out there are the same way. They're not going to spend money on a product that doesn't have the value. The thing here is that you can put a price tag on anything, and there's no law that says, you know, that you can't put $2,500 on something or $5,000 on something. There's no law out there that says that you can't put $20 on something or $15 on something that other people might sell for $400 or $500. Right? You can put whatever price you want on it, but whether you lose your ass on it or not, or whether you just sit on it forever and never sell it, that's a whole different story. So these comps that you pull up on Etsy, we'll just use Etsy for an example because it's the most common. These comps that you pull up on Etsy, they're only good if the seller's actually selling for that price. And you know, the thing is that an Etsy shop may have 100 reviews, and those 100 reviews may be all positive, but that doesn't mean that those 100 reviews are for that object that you're pricing. And maybe it is, you know, and that's a whole different thing. Maybe it is, because some of these people have been on Etsy for 10, 12 years, and they've established a return clientele. They've established a business. They've established a name or a brand for themselves. And so they may be able to ask, they may be able to get the coverage that other people don't get, and they may be able to ask that premium price for something that, you know, you can make just as easily, but not ever sell. I mean, it's possible, right? So, you know, you have to be careful with your pricing. Another thing is that you don't know what area those people are living at who are paying that money for that item. Okay, let's go back to the real estate issue again. If I was to take a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot house on a half acre of property and get a comp price for that in California, right? The value of that home in California would be 2 to 3 times the value of that home in Texas. Okay. So in Texas, I might have $275,000 as a comp, and I'm just pulling these numbers out of my tail end, right? But I may have $275,000 here in Texas, where that same house may be $750,000 to $1 million in California. So people in California may spend a lot more money on something that they would spend in Texas. Okay, and let's use cutting board for example. Cutting board is a perfect example. I charge 47 cents per cubic inch for an edge grain or end grain cutting board that does not have any kind of a distinctive, unusual, or difficult pattern, right? Just a straight set pattern, you know, straight pattern, very simple. You just glue them up, cut your juice groove in them, round over, sand them all down, treat them, put feet on them, send them out the door, right? So 47 cents per cubic inch. That's how I price those. For a end grain cutting board that is a very basic pattern, right? Essentially, it's the same thing as the face grain or edge grain pattern. The only difference is that you have an additional cut in there where you flip it up. You expose the end grain on top instead of the edge or face grain on top, and you go through a whole nother flattening process. Those are priced at 55 cents per cubic inch. Okay, and I think I said per cubic foot the first time. I meant cubic inch. Right, it's all in cubic inches. For a edge or face grain cutting board that has a distinctive pattern, like for instance my chevron boards, they price at 55 cents per cubic inch, and for the face grain they price at 65 cents per cubic inch. Okay, so that's kind of my pricing in there. So if you're ever kind of curious, what would a 12-inch by 16-inch by 1.5-inch cutting board cost? I believe that the cost comes out to $135, right? And that's kind of how, if you were to give me dimensions and say, how much would you build this board for, that's the process that I'm going to use to determine what I'm going to build that board for. And that's all provided materials that I can get that are readily available. Now, if you throw in some oddball ass wood like Winchwood or Wingay is what they call it, Wingay, or Paduk, or Purple Heart, which I don't have, and I would have to go purchase. That might increase the price, but you can take that exact same cutting board to Kansas and try to sell it in Kansas, and you'll sit on it all day. They're selling cutting boards in Kansas for $30. Right? I can't build a cutting board for $30. I'd go broke building a cutting board for $30. So you have to consider that. Facebook Marketplace. I want to wrap this up a little bit here because I'm getting up into that 22-minute range. Facebook Marketplace is where people go to find other people's trash, other people's junk. Right? Facebook Marketplace is where you go to find things that other people don't want, as a general rule. Now, outside of that, Facebook Marketplace is where I found both of the vendors that I use for my slabs. So there are other uses for Facebook Marketplace. But generally speaking, Facebook Marketplace is where you go to find the things that other people don't want, and you get it for a good price, because other people don't want it. I've given things away on Facebook Marketplace because I just wanted it out of my house. And that's what Facebook Marketplace is. Same thing with Craigslist. Craigslist is a place you go to buy things that nobody else wants. But there are other options. So there are Facebook pages that are dedicated towards buying and selling handcrafted goods. Facebook pages. Now, they're not, I still to this day have never sold anything on them, but I see people selling on there all the time. So it is definitely an option. So in this whole selling thing, the last thing I kind of want to touch on is that what you need to find, you need to do what's called market research. What you need to find are the things that are selling in the area that you're in, or that things are selling in the customer base that you have. And what is your customer base? Your customer base are your fans, or your friends, your family, previous customers that may have purchased from you before, and their circles. All right? Because if your friends and family will share your stuff out to the people that they know, then those people may become part of your extended customer base. And as you build a good, solid customer base, those people will continue to expand your circle. But you need to begin where you're at. And you need to find out what sells where you're at. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen people that have followed the advice of these YouTubers out there who are saying, if you'll just make this, you'll sell, an ungodly amount of money. You'll make 12,000% profit or 1,200% profit, or, these are guaranteed will sell items, and all that. And the thing is that in the sales market, there is absolutely nothing guaranteed. Absolutely nothing. You have to do the work. You have to push, and you have to fight. So don't waste your time making things that people are not going to buy. And sometimes you have to make those things to find out that people are not going to buy them. And when you make those things and they don't sell, you need to ask yourself why. Either there's a quality control problem, there's a pricing problem, there's a marketing problem, or there's a build quality problem. Find out which one of those or what combination of those your problem is and fix it. One of the best things about all these videos out there are the myriad amount of ideas that they put out there, all of the different things and possibilities. And when you take something that somebody's built and you're like, well, that's kind of cool, man, I kind of like that, I dig that, and I wouldn't mind having one of those, I can make that. Then what you need to also ask is, how can I make that better? All right, I like it, but how can I do it better? How can I make that something that not just I would want, but that other people might want? We're going to talk a little bit later in another video somewhere down the road about marketing locally to your local areas and some of the places that you can look at. There are several places I have personally talked to around me that will be willing to put some of the things that I have for sale up. However, I don't have the amount of stuff that they want me to put up at this point. So I'm working on building that up, and once I build that up, then I'll have at least one or two places locally where I'll be able to display my stuff for sale, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in another video. Y'all take care. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay out of trouble. Thank you for coming in. Please like, please share, and please comment. Peace out.